one with the tornado warning that's now moving right across northern parts of Scott into western parts of Jefferson counties. This is the tornado warned storm that has about another 15 minutes left on it. So until about 6:15, that tornado warning remains in progress. I'm going to put on the velocity so we can see with that new update where we have the latest rotation showing up, and you can see it's in general the same place we pointed out on the reflectivity, moving right across the county line, pretty much right where they all merge from Jennings, Scott, as well as Jefferson. That's going to take it right into the Wakefield area with some of those strong winds. As we zoom in just a little bit more, I can show you a few towns that would be impacted by this. And you can see it's moving right across Paris Crossing, Wakefield, the strongest winds passing DuPont, Wirt. It's going to move just to your south, close to you. So Wirt would be in the path of that. The strongest winds should be just south. Again, southern Indiana, that's Jefferson County, tornado warning until 6:15. When we look at the reflectivity on all of this, we've got our SkyTrack cameras looking at what's going on around the downtown area. We also have the storm tracker that's out and about. I want to be able to show you some of those images that are coming in. So when we have those, let me know. We're going to go back to our home view. And with that, we have the one tornado warning, about another 15 minutes. Cluster of severe thunderstorm warning, southern Indiana moving into metro Louisville, and a few individual supercells that are ongoing by themselves out across western Kentucky. And that's where we continue to see those storms that are healthy, producing decent amounts of wind in that smaller area, and even the potential for hail with those storms. The largest hail we've seen today has been baseball-size hail. That was in Orange County near French Lick. I know Jessica Dobson's been looking over a lot of the reports that's been coming in, looking at your social media reports when it's safe to do so. If you have the Wave Weather app, it's easy to take photos on that. Jessica, I'll ask you, do we have any additional reports of damage? Jessica's using Max 3 so we can show some of the information coming in.
Yeah, so this is an image from David in French Lick, Indiana. This we've seen. I think that's probably at least close to I think it's probably close to tennis ball maybe, or baseball size hail, but that's one of the reports we've seen so far that's come in from David Shelby. We really appreciate your all's reports. It's very easy to submit your photos if you're able to do so safely. Really, the majority of our photos we've gotten have been either from the Mattis clouds, from the severe weather that we see under these type of scenarios, but also some golf ball size hail near Ramsey, Indiana. So we're going to continue to upload these pictures and give you guys a better view.
All right, let's jump outside. The storm tracker's on the road. I know we've got many folks wanting to know what's going to happen in Louisville. So while we're dissecting these storms moving in with wind and heavy rain into Louisville, we're also keeping an eye on that rotation that's moving across the far western parts of Jefferson County, Indiana. The tornado warning continues there for about another 10 minutes or so. Let's go to the storm tracker, and I just want to be able to show the imagery of that rain starting to pick up northern parts of Jefferson County. Again, you can see as the conditions sort of deteriorate on the roads. We've got a number of folks on the roads. It's a Sunday. We're in peak summertime. Some folks are out and about, and you can see that as we approach 22nd Street and the exit there, as you work your way around the Watterson, that a number of areas, and 64, a number of areas are seeing the rain pick up, and that includes us here in Louisville. And it's not out of the question that we'd see some hail with this. We've just had a report of pea-size hail coming out of Floyd's Knobs. Brian?
Yeah, in fact, we're tracking the hail right now that as it moves into, it looks like 3 different cells right now moving across Indiana. This is the one that had the tornado warning with it that moved across Jackson County into Jennings. Notice the hail core still showing up there, although the past couple stands not as intense with some larger hail reports. Then we had the 2 cells that have been moving across Orange County, sliding into Harrison County, now approaching Louisville. So you can easily see the path so far the hail is taken, but we're not seeing it as the level that we saw earlier on the scans. So pea-size makes sense only because you got to keep in mind the radar is going to have a tendency to overestimate, but it is so warm outside that a lot of the hailstones do tend to melt as they fall, so that does reduce a little bit on the size. But pea-size, I think we can all handle pea-size once it stays at that level. But at the moment, the risk anyways, it could easily build back up again in height. Right now, I just checked, it's 46,000 feet is the size here of the storm. Again, it's certainly well within its limits there to get severe weather going as it's crossing. And again, if it were to hold on to its current hail path, we still look forward there into Floyd County, So that would take it right across Shively, along the Larson Expressway, and near the airport. In fact, I've been watching the camera feed over at Ali International, and so far it hasn't reached there just yet. Hard to see anything because it is so humid outside. Everything just kind of gets broad brushed there in the skies. It's hard to see much at all. Of course, now you start to see a little bit of rain falling. I'll check that camera, Kevin, and I'll pan it down here in a second and see if there's any hail reaching the ground. Maybe hard to tell, but it's possible. There could be some small hail, at least reaching on the western side there of the airport.
Yeah, again, the only report I'm seeing out of Floyd County, but there could be many others with that smaller hail, no doubt. When we look at the map in general, it is the heavy rain, the small hail potential, the wind moving into Louisville. Our winds, again, southeast 9 miles an hour. That's about to change as we see the outflow from these storms push our way from the north. Our temperature, likewise, will be dropping fairly fast. We're at 86 right now in Louisville. New severe thunderstorm warning coming out that will include Crawford, Floyd, and Harrison counties. The tag on this, let me point out this feature on the radar. When you see our polygons, you can see yellow and red. The red's obviously tornado. The yellow's obviously severe thunderstorm warning. But when you see it outlined in black, that's an indicator that there is a tornado possible with that storm. So when I click on this, you're going to see it. All right, it's just a visual that gives us the indicator that, hey, there's a tornado possible with this storm. That's indeed what the Weather Service says. The storm moving into parts of Clark, Floyd, Harrison, and Jefferson. That includes New Albany, PRP, Valley Station. It can produce 60-mile-an-hour winds, golf ball size hail. In that warning alone, that one warning, over 166,000 individuals would be affected by this storm. That warning is going to go until 6:15. Let me move that warning or the box over, and then we'll just point out what we've been watching. Again, all of these storms have had the potential today. This is the storm we're watching here. This is the one that's going to be moving in. So while we have rain falling in Louisville, and there's a severe thunderstorm warning with that storm, this one has the capability of rotating more, and that's the one back across northern Crawford, northern Harrison counties that will be moving in. All right. We have additional warnings that continue to come out. Let's go to that one. And you're going to notice as we sort of bounce around on the maps, that this one is coming in for areas that include all of Louisville. So that's now we have 3 severe thunderstorm warnings for the city of Louisville. That gets a little confusing, right? One is replacing the other that we have these storms moving through to give places like Fairdale, Valley Station, over towards St. Matthews a heads up to say, hey, severe thunderstorm moving your way. The other one that was just issued is the one that shows some signs of rotation. That's still a ways back. So it's that 1-2 punch we said we were going to have to deal with both storms moving into Louisville. We're going to have 2 individual storms moving in. Both will produce tremendous amounts of rain and lightning, and they have the capability of producing some very strong winds as well. So that's what we're dealing with in terms of Metro Louisville. The tornado warning continues to the north. We're not ignoring you to the north. The last few checks, Brian's been watching it. Jessica's watching it, so while we may be talking on the air about what's happening, this storm has shown some signs of weakening in terms of that rotation to the north. Let me show you. I'll show you the reflectivity, but here comes the velocity. On the velocity, you can see it's a little broader. It's still there. It's moving across western Jefferson County, Indiana. This is the tornado warning storm that has just a couple more minutes left on that warning. In fact, when you check the big board, mostly filled with severe thunderstorm warnings, 7 more minutes for the tornado warning in Jefferson and Scott counties in Indiana. What's moving closer to us in Louisville, a wall of rain and some wind, potentially with some small hail. A lot of lightning with these storms. Brian?
Yeah, in fact, let me do a quick count on that, on the lightning side. And I'm going to just focus just on the part there of, say, Harrison County, Floyd County, and the western side of the metro right now, coming in at about 91 strikes in the past 10 minutes. Let me show you the SkyTrack camera. I've been watching this. This is over at Ali International. So far, I've not seen any hail. This is mainly just large raindrops. A good sign. The dew points are high. You get these large tropical-like raindrops that are smacking on your windshield. You guys have driven through that before, how difficult that can be. It's a very blinding rainfall, very difficult to travel through, but nothing as far as hail right now is falling, and I haven't seen too much of a hail core show up right now into the western side there of Jefferson County. So far, it's been mainly just very heavy rainfall, but I think that's going to be a sneaky issue that I think is going to start to show up here. We're going to probably get a flood advisory at some point out of this mess, especially out of Floyd County, and then the potential is there to get to a flash flood warning with some of the heavier rainfall. So that's just a secondary threat that still can be a big one. And in fact, it's our biggest one that we have in wave country when it comes to threats or flash floods. So just be aware of that as that moves in. These other cells are struggling a bit, and that's interesting. We'll wait and see whether or not these across the Ohio River will end up taking over the storyline as we did this evening. But so far, we haven't seen too much action to the west. But this is a very humid setup here across central Kentucky, relatively untouched. So right now, the main focus is how do we get through the cell that's moving toward Madison, Indiana, which is starting to show signs of becoming more of a downburst wind scenario, but still a lot of concentrated lightning there, so we can't let our guard down with that as it approaches the Ohio River. And of course, the multiple supercells, but it's hard to even identify anymore, Kevin. They're all really merging together rapidly into one big blob of heavy rain and lightning moving through the area.
Yeah, we've got a new warning that's coming out. This is going to be for parts of southern Indiana. This will be for Jefferson County as well as Trimble County in Kentucky. So it's downstream from that tornado warning. It's a severe thunderstorm warning. So another 4 minutes or so left on the tornado warning, and then we're left with this mess moving into metro Louisville that has the potential for some flooding rains. Here comes that warning I just mentioned. So let me go to it, and I'll just point out for our folks northern Kentucky, this is going to be the severe thunderstorm warning that extends outside of the tornado warning.
And there's no tornado tag, too, with that one.
Exactly. Yeah. So that goes to what we were saying. For folks who are like, why aren't they paying attention to the tornado warning? Well, we were watching it all along, and as this sort of weekend, our focus turned to the severe weather moving into Jefferson County, and that's what we're going to go back to here in a second. But I want to point out that even folks in Trimble County, just north of Bedford, right along the river, not too far from Carrollton, you're under the severe thunderstorm warning. Could still see some hail out of this storm, possible upwards of 2 inches. That's larger than golf ball size. That's moving just north of Wakefield at this point. We'll be crossing over US 421 shortly. That's the severe thunderstorm warning. The rest of us are noting the severe weather moving into Jefferson County. That is the largest cluster of storms that we have. I'm going to go back to the radar view, take off the lightning. Obviously, we have a lot of lightning with these storms. Doesn't take me to tell you that. You can probably hear the thunder. We're going to zoom into Louisville. We've got some very heavy rain that's moving in. We're already starting to see the rain pile up in parts of southern Indiana. That will be considerable as we note both of these storms moving right across the same path. So we've got a number of warnings that are out. One of those outlined in the black, that's the indicator for the possible tornado. So and that's tagged on a severe thunderstorm warning when there is some rotation or the possibility thereof. So let me go into, and I'll show the scope so I can keep on what we would call the reflectivity. Let's go into the velocity. It's this zone here that shows right over Fairdale, and that's Fairdale in Harrison County. And you can see on that, we are seeing the rotation. So this is a zone that we're watching. We've got our eyes on it. We're going to see this move near Crandall, north of Corydon. This is a tornado warning that's coming out for this storm. So it's now, again, we're not the only ones watching it. The Weather Service clearly watching it too. We'll point out that that is now a tornado warning, comes right up to Metro Louisville. This is going to include Floyd, Harrison, and Jefferson. This includes Corydon, which we have a camera, St. Denis and Shively, golf ball size hail. This is radar indicated. Back to what we were looking at in terms of the velocity on this, we noticed this little hook going around. That's an indicator that we've got strong winds going in, and the scope will show us that. And let's go to it because I think we're going to start to see some hail start to develop as well. So the first storm's moving out ahead of that. We see the greatest rotation with this storm. We've been explaining that there are different types of severe thunderstorm warnings. Some come with the tags that tornadoes are possible, some don't. We also have a new severe thunderstorm warning. I'll get to that in a second. This is moving right across northern parts of Harrison County. You've got to be in your tornado safe place. Get to the lowest level, away from windows. That's the wind velocity that we have. Strong, gusty winds. You can see that we're still at 9 miles an hour, 0 gust at this point at the airport. We're going to have some strong winds pushing into Louisville with some heavy rain. Let's go back to the other severe thunderstorm warning. This has been extended to now include Carroll County, which is we just were. So this is Jefferson and Scott counties for the tornado warning. That will be replaced with the new severe thunderstorm warning that we have. What we're watching for Louisville happens to be...
Kevin,
yes.
Sorry, I was watching the Trimark camera at Crumbs Lane.
Yes.
And at that point at 264, and I'm also seeing rotation right there. The wind picked up and the camera went out, and I lost it.
Okay.
And now I'm starting to see rotation very close to that area.
All right.
This is on the right at the point northwest side there of Shively. So
All
just
right.
FYI.
Let's just zoom in. I see you've got your computer zoomed
Yeah.
into it. I'll do the same, just so folks know. So I was talking about the rotation going on in northern Harrison County. Brian is looking at what's going on over near Shively. So let's dive in. This is a beautiful part about having the whole team here working. Jessica's working on the social stuff, pushing it out, make sure all those that have our app are updated. Brian and I are looking at different storms all the time so we can keep you updated with what's happening around the area. This is that pocket Brian is looking. He was looking at a Trimark camera. It went out. Clearly, we have something going on here. The tornado warning encompasses that area. It's not necessarily for that part of the storm.
It may be just a downburst.
But it could
be.
Yeah, it could be just coming out of that storm as it continues. Shively would be in that zone right along the Waterson, so the Georgia Powers as you work your way north. So that is an area that we'll be watching. When we look at the reflectivity on that, it likewise shows. Again, on the backside, sort of where that would hook around. So it would line up with the reflectivity. Several things we're watching now, guys, for folks that are at home. Let me zoom. I'm going to go back to the home view, and then I'll zoom back into this mess and cluster of storms around Metro Louisville, pointing out that, yes, there are additional storms around. These are outside of the viewing area, and the ones to the north are weakening just a bit. So the ones that are sort of most potent are the ones that are approaching the greatest population. That's across southern Indiana and down into Louisville. So for folks that are in the tornado warning, which would include a good chunk of Harrison County, including Corydon, Crandall, Floyd County, Lanesville, just south of New Albany, but including Shively and PRP, you should be in your tornado safe place. You need to get to the lowest level. We can see we have great rotation even through the reflectivity showing up right there, and we also have a pocket showing up right there. All right, so those are the two areas of rotation. We still have heavy lightning in all of the storms. Wherever you see rain, there's lightning on a day like today. And we still also have gusty winds showing up with many of these. But the strongest pockets of wind would be right there and right there. Now let's zoom into each of those. Brian, I see you already have one, so let's go look at the one in Jefferson County.
Yeah.
This continues to strengthen.
Exactly. It's right there at the point of the 264 Crumbs Lane. I was looking at the camera. I'll check the feed in just a second. I think the feed came back, but it's very much in that little bend there. Of course, you guys know in the Georgia Powers. Let me try to see if we can get a signal to it. It did knock it down for a while. Looks like it's still down. The wind got quite strong there. I don't have any official gust yet. Let me check actually real quick at all to make sure, because that wind gust is awful close to the airport. Not seeing anything. Yeah, don't see anything there right now. So that's a separate cell. Right now, it looks more like a downburst scenario that has happened there in the western side of Jefferson County. And that's just going to come with just a very heavy rainfall rate. Again, you got a lot of heat that's built up, a lot of humidity in the western side of Louisville. We'll watch this because it is certainly showing the strong wind gusts. Let me see if I can get some speeds on this. Hold on one second. This is going to be just west there, 264. Doesn't look overly severe. I would say about 40 to 50 knots. So that's pretty typical, like a downburst wind that maybe accompanies an area. But it's the past couple scans on that I've been noticing right there into Shively. That's what really shows it. You almost see where it begins to hit the ground. And downburst wind is basically just a big bucket of winds. The best way I can describe it, just like you would think of in rainfall. But a big bucket of wind that drops straight down out of the cloud and can produce damage. In some cases, in Louisville especially, we end up with more of an issue of wind damage in this kind of scenario than we do even tornadoes around here. So this is heading right into Shively. I would say very close to Churchill Downs, University of Louisville, and again heading right toward the airport. Let me show you the camera. This is going to be from Ali International right now, and I don't see anything outstanding here at the moment, but it's looking toward, that's the big board. You guys recognize that at Churchill Downs. So that's looking in the general vicinity of where if there is a downburst wind, it's likely to be in that area. So just kind of a heads up, even though we have the tornado warning that is out for certainly that cell, the second one that we're watching, it's approaching the metro from the northwest. That's the one we're watching that really triggered the tornado warning. But this one is also also including a severe thunderstorm warning for damage and winds that could still develop out of this cell as it moves to the south and east, Kevin.
All right, all eyes on Metro Louisville as we've got two storms, one over us, one approaching. The one approaching with the tornado warning that's now moving across parts of Harrison County. You see the storm trackers out and about. Our SkyTrack cameras are up. We've got 10 of those strategically placed. Let's take a close view of the storm tracker, just show you what's happening. If you're on the roads, this is what it looks like. Again, it's raining heavily downtown and all across Jefferson County at this point. The storm tracker is making its way right up Interstate 64. Flashers are on with the cars. Heavy rain. There's the Muhammad Ali Center. So we're coming as you work your way toward the downtown area. The river is on your left-hand side there. You've got all the downtown buildings to the right. Heavy rain falling. Gusty winds, but nothing too abnormal. That is, again, what we've been talking about. The damage reports have been hard to come by. We haven't seen many of those, even in southern Indiana, where we've tracked these storms. You can see the KFC Yum Center. Again, traffic is slowed in Metro Louisville because of the heavy rain that's falling and the gusty winds. We're tracking the storms moving in. One is on top of us now with the heaviest of the wind, as Brian pointed out, with this storm moving right over Shively. That's one zone. The next zone continues to tighten up. That one's moving across northern Harrison County. That one's approaching Crandall just north of Corydon. We can show you what that looks like on our SkyTrack camera. Brian, if you wouldn't mind switching us to the shot looking to the north from Corydon as we look at the SkyTrack network. Again, we're switching the cameras around so you can see what those look like. And then if you take a closer view of what some of those SkyTrack images look like, you can get a better idea of what's happening. North. Look at the wind blowing right there in Corydon, the base of that storm overhead. Lots of lightning, lots of wind shear kicking up with these storms. And as we scan, you're going to notice the base of those storms a little jagged. You can see the wind and the energy, not just from the trees, but from the base of the clouds.
Yeah, that's where we call this the rain-free base we're looking at here. This is always a sign that it's hard to tell from this camera vantage point, but if you were to be standing there, you would likely see the entire cloud itself doing a rotating type of setup, almost like the movie you would think of in Independence Day when the ship kind of rotates. But it's a very broad rotation, and the Weather Service is caution here. This one is likely, if there's going to be any type of funnel cloud that could develop out of this into areas of Harrison County, especially
look at that wind.
Exactly. It will likely be rain wrapped, so it may be difficult to see. But I'll keep an eye on there. It's certainly the wind. Now notice the tree. It's blowing. It looks like a little more toward the wind flow itself. So a little bit more of an inward flow. So it's certainly trying to pull in like a vacuum cleaner would do, basically try to pull in some very warm air right into the storm. So the storm is feeding on that area there of Harrison County. And you can see the flags there. It's certainly like at the bottom. You can see them blowing in the direction of the storm. So the storm is taking in the air. That inflow is a good sign. The storm is quite strong and getting stronger, actually, as it's moving across areas of Corydon at the moment in northern Harrison County, and we'll track it as it moves toward Lanesville. I think Lanesville is next in line if this were to hold together, but the rotation is not easy to pick out because it is so broad, but it's one of those that could easily drop a tornado briefly as it moves across there of Harrison County. You can see that little bit of an inflow. When you're looking down the camera, the wind flow, again, is kind of blowing in this direction, flowing into it. There's the adjusted tornado warning. They're going to track that. So they're going to go with that right into Louisville. So now Louisville, the air raid sirens will be going off in Louisville now because we now have the tornado warning that goes all the way to the Greenbelt, Kevin, and the Georgia Powers.
All right. So again, the new tornado warning is an extension of the tornado warning that we have. Winds will be picking up. We see them now in parts of Harrison County from our SkyTrack camera. You'll notice on the radar view 2 separate storms, one over top of us with gusty winds in Shively, and then the other one with the tornado warning that's coming out of Harrison County that will be extending off to the south and east. Again, the new tornado warning will go until 6:45. So we're going to be with you through that time. 6:45 it is. I'm going to ask our reporters that are in the studio if you can make some phone calls, help us out with some information just to see what's happening here in Metro Louisville. I know the storm tracker is on the road, but we're going to stay with nonstop weather coverage to get you through this latest tornado warning that's been issued. It's moving to the southeast at about 40 miles an hour, and as this storm presses off to the south and southeast, it will have the capability of producing a tornado. At this point, nothing on the ground that we know of. Now, we would know most cases because it's moving through a fairly populated zone at this point. I'm going to go back to the radar view. We'll zoom out to our home view. Really, the whole show is centered on southern Indiana and metro Louisville. That's what's moving in. We also have severe thunderstorm warnings for a good chunk of Jefferson County, Indiana, parts of Trimble and Carroll counties in Indiana. Those storms, likewise, severe gusty winds, the potential for some smaller hail with those storms. The main severe storm that is really worth our concentration happens to be the one that's moving right into northern parts of Jefferson County and western parts of Jefferson County. Let me show you. We can hear on the roof some rain falling, what could be some hail. Can sort of differentiate the sounds. Again, this is moving right on top of us downtown, so this is very heavy rain right along I-65. Let me show you on the radar the velocities. We're going to notice two distinct zones. There's one that's passing by Shively, right along the Watterson, and we also have the couplet of the tornado warning back across northern parts of Harrison County in Indiana. And that's where we have the greatest potential for that tornado. I'm going to start by looking closer at what's moving into Jefferson County. This pocket of wind moving right over Wilder Park will continue moving near the airport. So it's going to move off to the east-southeast, crosses over Interstate 65 within a matter of just minutes, all right? So that's one pocket of wind that we're watching in metro Louisville. That, along with everybody else, seeing some very heavy rain and the possibility of some small hail. And I hear Brian. Brian, if go ahead.
It's marble-sized hail, and it's actually pouring hail outside the station right now.
David, do you mind maybe looking outside in the weather garden? Let's get set up and talk about some of the weather that's happening here. All right, and you can see the tower cam looking down in the parking lot. So we do have some small hail that's falling in downtown Louisville. And again, when we look at what's going on, we've got pockets of wind. There's the one moving over Wilder Park. Thanks, Brendan. And then another one that is moving across parts of Harrison County. And that's really the one that is the larger of the two in terms of the wind maker. So I'm going to zoom back into that. So again, focused on the wind. You see other severe thunderstorm warnings coming out to the north, sort of being trimmed back. That's where we previously had a tornado warning, but the only tornado warning now includes the city. And that's because of what we've been talking about. As this storm moves across Harrison County, it has shown signs of rotation. Some very strong wind approaching Lanesville and Corydon. We showed you that. See where this blue showing up? That's strong wind all the way from Georgetown down toward Corydon. That's where we have the greatest rotation just south of Lanesville. That's going to be south of Indiana 62. That's going to be moving into southern Floyd County and western Jefferson County at this point. Back to our home view, and we'll put on the reflectivity. Brian, what do you have?
Okay, a couple of things. Been watching that cell that's been moving through Jefferson County. Weather Service issued a statement. It's the new warnings coming out for the Louisville Metro for the strong wind signature. I'm not sure if they're referring to a severe thunderstorm warning, a tornado warning. Okay, they're going to cancel the tornado warning that is out, and they're going to keep it with a severe thunderstorm warning. Yeah, it looks like as it moves through. One thing I did note, the Storm Prediction Center issued a statement. They did highlight this area for the potential for strong tornadoes that could be developing as we head to the next couple of hours. And that's right in the heart of wave country there. So that's how we're going to see how these cells kind of evolve and merge. They lost that signature for a while, but it looks like they're trying to get that signature back again, developing perhaps even that isolated tornado thread. Right now, it looks like, though, Kevin, we will be out of a tornado warning setup in all of our counties, correct? I believe that's right.
Yes.
And now we're seeing all the hail reports come in from the Highlands and Germantown. Basically what I saw outside, it was roughly about, I would say, pea to marble size, but it was come down quite a bit. Obviously, we could hear on the roof of the station, too.
All right, and there's the weather garden. You can see, if you look, what we're looking for is things that bounce.
It's laying in the gravel, the mulch there. Yeah.
Exactly. You can see it in the gravel and in the back part of that where you can see those little white pieces of ice. I mean, that is the hail that fell. Could have been up to marble size hail. So I know Brandon Spencer was on his way out there to take a look. Brian has seen it. I heard it on the roof, so we knew it was happening, and there it is. So a number of reports coming in. Back to the radar we go. Storm tracker is on the roads. We've seen traffic slowed. One round of heavy rain through, another one on the way. Severe thunderstorm warnings continue across Metro Louisville. Until those expire, we're going to stay with you. So we'll wipe out nightly news and stay with you to get you through this weather scenario. And then hopefully there's a little time in there. We'll get you back to your evening programming, and then if we have to jump back on this evening. The good news is what we had in terms of severe weather back to the south and west has expired. What we're looking at back off to the north is not all that strong. So the strongest of the storms happens to be moving through Louisville as we speak with a severe thunderstorm warning. They're issuing a new severe thunderstorm warning for Clark, Harrison, and Floyd. That will go until 7 o'clock. So
It's just going to replace the whole thing.
Sort of cleaning it all up.
Yeah.
And again, radar indicated 60-mile-per-hour winds. Notice they took the tornado possible tag off. So we sort of saw this merger